Why are sawed-off shotguns banned? This question might seem straightforward at first glance, but the reality is far more complex and layered. The reasons behind the ban are deeply rooted in history, law, and the devastating impact these weapons have had on society. It seems like a simple question. However, the answer is anything but simple. It involves a journey through the dark corridors of criminal history and the legislative efforts to curb violence. But the answer is a dark journey. A journey that takes us through the shadowy alleys where these weapons have been used to commit heinous crimes, and through the dense forests of legal texts that have tried to regulate them. It's a story written in blood and etched in law books. The narrative of sawed-off shotguns is one of violence and the subsequent attempts to legislate against their use. These weapons have left an indelible mark on both the criminal world and the legal system. Sawed-off shotguns represent a chilling intersection of utility and mayhem. Originally designed for practical purposes, their modifications have turned them into instruments of terror. These brutally efficient weapons have terrorized communities and left lawmakers scrambling for answers. The fear they instill is palpable, and their impact on public safety cannot be overstated. For decades, the sound of a sawed-off shotgun being cocked has sent chills down spines. This sound is often a prelude to violence, a harbinger of chaos and destruction. It's the sound of impending violence, of chaos unleashed. The mere presence of such a weapon can incite panic and fear, disrupting the peace and safety of any environment. But how did this modified weapon become so synonymous with criminality? The history of the sawed-off shotgun is intertwined with the rise of organized crime and the desperate measures taken by individuals seeking power and control. What makes it so different from a regular shotgun? The modifications may seem minor, but they fundamentally change the nature of the weapon, making it far more dangerous and unpredictable. The answer, like the weapon itself, is deceptively simple. By altering the length of the barrel and sometimes the stock, the sawed-off shotgun becomes a different beast altogether. By shortening the barrel and often the stock, a sawed-off shotgun becomes easily concealable. This concealability makes it a preferred choice for those looking to commit crimes without drawing attention. It transforms into a weapon of convenience, a tool for close-quarters brutality. In tight spaces, its shortened length allows for greater maneuverability, making it a deadly choice for close-range encounters. But this ease of use comes at a cost. The modifications that make it so effective in close quarters also make it highly unpredictable and difficult to control. The modifications create a weapon that is unpredictable, harder to control, and devastatingly effective at close range. The spread of the shot is wider, increasing the likelihood of hitting unintended targets. This is the story of the sawed-off shotgun, a tale of a weapon that has evolved from a tool of necessity to an icon of fear and violence. It's a story of innovation gone wrong, of a tool repurposed for violence. What was once a practical solution for certain tasks has been twisted into a symbol of criminal intent. It's a tale that will take us from the trenches of World War I to the back alleys of our cities. The sawed-off shotgun has a storied past, one that reflects the darker aspects of human nature and ingenuity. And it's a story that forces us to confront the dark side of human ingenuity. The sawed-off shotgun is a stark reminder of how innovation can be turned towards destructive ends, challenging us to find ways to mitigate its impact on society. The origins of the sawed-off shotgun are surprisingly utilitarian. Initially, these weapons were not designed for criminal activity or even for civilian use. They were born out of necessity during one of the most brutal conflicts in human history. In the claustrophobic trenches of World War I, soldiers needed compact firepower. The narrow, winding trenches made it difficult to maneuver with long rifles, and the close-quarters combat demanded a weapon that could deliver devastating firepower quickly and efficiently. Standard-issue rifles were too cumbersome for close-quarters combat. These long-barreled weapons were excellent for open-field battles, but proved to be a liability in the tight confines of trench warfare. Soldiers needed something more practical. Enter the trench gun, a shortened shotgun ideal for clearing enemy positions. With its shorter barrel, it was easier to handle in the confined spaces of the trenches. It could unleash a devastating spread of pellets, making it highly effective at close range. But necessity soon gave way to notoriety. After the war, these weapons found their way into civilian hands. The same features that made them effective in the trenches, compact size and powerful stopping power, made them attractive to a different kind of user. The weapon's concealability and stopping power proved irresistible to criminals. It was easy to hide under a coat or in a bag, making it the perfect tool for those looking to commit crimes without drawing attention. The Roaring Twenties saw a surge in bank robberies and train heists. The economic turmoil and the rise of organized crime created a perfect storm for the proliferation of these deadly weapons. The sawed-off shotgun, easily hidden under a coat, became the weapon of choice for these brazen criminals. Its ability to deliver a powerful blast at close range made it ideal for intimidating victims and overpowering law enforcement. The image of the outlaw wielding a sawed-off shotgun was cemented in the public consciousness. These weapons became synonymous with the lawlessness and violence of the era. From Bonnie and Clyde to John Dillinger, these desperate criminals used these deadly weapons to terrifying effect. Their exploits were romanticized in the media, adding to the weapon's infamy. Their exploits splashed across newspapers, fueled a growing fear of these easily concealed firearms. The public's fascination with these criminals only served to increase the weapon's notoriety. The sawed-off shotgun became a symbol of lawlessness. It represented the breakdown of order, the threat of sudden, overwhelming violence. Its very presence was enough to instill fear. It represented the breakdown of order, the threat of sudden, overwhelming violence. The weapon's association with high-profile crimes made it a focal point in the debate over gun control. And as its use in crime escalated, so too did the calls for its control. Lawmakers and law enforcement agencies began to push for regulations to curb the spread of these dangerous weapons, leading to a series of legislative efforts aimed at restricting their use. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre. The name still sends chills down the spine. This infamous event is etched into the annals of American crime history, a stark reminder of the brutal gang wars that plagued the streets of Chicago during the Prohibition era. On February 14, 1929, 7 men were lined up against a wall in a Chicago garage and brutally murdered. These men were members of the North Side Gang, and their execution was orchestrated by Al Capone's South Side Italian gang in a bid to eliminate competition and assert dominance over the lucrative bootlegging business. The weapon of choice sawed-off shotguns. These firearms, with their shortened barrels, were favored by gangsters for their concealability and devastating close-range firepower. The sawed-off shotgun became synonymous with the ruthless efficiency of organized crime. The massacre, a gruesome display of gangland violence, shocked the nation. It was a wake-up call to the American public and law enforcement about the escalating violence and the deadly tools being used. But the St. Valentine's Day Massacre wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a larger pattern of violence that saw sawed-off shotguns being used in numerous high-profile crimes throughout the 20th century. Throughout the 20th century, sawed-off shotguns were used in countless acts of violence. From gangland executions to bank robberies, these weapons left a trail of destruction and fear in their wake. Assassinations, robberies, riots, the weapon became a chillingly familiar sight in news reports and crime dramas. Its presence was a grim indicator of the potential for sudden, lethal violence. One particularly disturbing case involved a disgruntled employee in Texas. This individual, harboring a deep grudge against his former employers, decided to take matters into his own hands in the most violent way possible. He walked into his former workplace, armed with a sawed-off shotgun, and opened fire. The carnage was unimaginable. The confined space of the office amplified the weapon's destructive power, resulting in a tragic loss of life and leaving survivors traumatized. The incident, like so many others, highlighted the devastating power of these weapons in confined spaces. The sawed-off shotgun's ability to inflict maximum damage in a short amount of time made it a preferred choice for those intent on causing harm. These real-life tragedies were more than just headlines. They were personal stories of loss and heartbreak, affecting families and communities deeply. Each incident left a lasting scar on the collective memory of society. They were stark reminders of the human cost of gun violence. The faces of the victims, the grief of their loved ones, and the shattered lives served as powerful testimonies to the need for change. Each incident fueled the growing public outcry against sawed-off shotguns. Activists, community leaders, and ordinary citizens began to demand stricter regulations and better enforcement to prevent such tragedies from recurring. The message was clear: these weapons were too dangerous, too easily obtained, and too often used for evil. The call for action resonated across the nation, leading to legislative efforts aimed at curbing the availability and misuse of sawed-off shotguns. The legacy of these crimes continues to shape the conversation around gun control and public safety. Instrument of violence.